Good afternoon, everybody, and I am so excited to be here. My name is Paul Ashley, and I'm the Director of Strategic Engagement at Bristol Myers Squibb. And I also, in that capacity, have the honor of being the Vice Chair of the Board of Directors of the Boys and Girls Club of Mercer County. Shout out to those who are online. I'm so excited for this program. The team has worked very hard to bring you an exciting group of people whose role it is to really to learn from and to inspire each and every one of you to be great and to do great things just as they all have. They're from a wide variety of backgrounds, and we're so excited for you to meet each and every one of them. But before we do that, there are some ground rules. So we just wanted to let everybody know, the previous slide, I'm sorry, that this event is being recorded because there is so many good information, so much good information that we know is going to be imparted. We want to make sure that more people can enjoy it. So by joining this meeting, you're providing your consent to be recorded. And if you do not consent, you should exit the meeting and contact the organizer. But really, the only people who are going to be on screen are the speakers. So we should be all good there. Any screen sharing and video will be a part of the recording, but conversations had in the chat will not. So there will be plenty of chances to ask questions. And to ask questions, please use the chat. And that will be a great way because of the powerful speakers that we have in order to do that. So we know you guys will have great questions, so start thinking of it now, but most importantly, have fun and prepare to be inspired. As I mentioned, I have the honor of being on the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club of Mercer County. And to bring greetings, we have our beloved and esteemed Reggie Coleman, who's the Executive Vice President of Operations. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to Reggie. Reggie?
Thanks, Paul. What a wonderful opportunity is today for our club members here in Trenton and members joining us from clubs throughout the state of New Jersey. With all the challenges our teens and families and clubs have faced this past year, it's exciting and refreshing to have so many teens joining us today. This also wouldn't be possible without the work and support of Bristol Myers Squibb and Accenture. You've both been longtime supporters of the Boys and Girls Clubs and champions of youth development. Today is just another example of your continued commitment to ensure that our youth and young adult members have the opportunities to engage, explore, and prepare for a great future. I'd like to thank Paul Ashley, as he said, our vice chair, Stuart Henderson, trustee, and Heather McIntyre, board member, and all their teams, everyone on their team that came up with this idea for today and bringing it into fruition. To our guests and panelists, thank you for making the time in your schedules today to share your experiences, both your triumphs and challenges that have made you all so successful today. To our young people joining us today, thank you for taking advantage of this opportunity. There are many other places you could be, but you're here with us all, so that says so much about you and your character already. You have an all-star panel before you today. Listen, learn, ask questions, and just continue to be the leaders that you are. Thank you again to BMS and Accenture for your time and your investment that went into today. It will certainly pay off. And I hope everyone have a great Real Talks today. Thank you.
Thank you, Reggie. And without further ado, I'm not going to spend a lot of time introducing them because you're going to get to know them as they have this very wonderful conversation. So you're going to hear from Michaela Umar. She's a winner of Shark Tank, and she's the founder and CEO of Me and the Bees Lemonade. She's really an inspiration, not only to you all as she's a part of your age group and your community, but to those of us who are a lot more senior. She's such an inspiration. And she's going to have the discussion with a person that I get to call my friend, Janice Bryant Howard. She's the Act One founder and CEO, and she's built an empire in the contingent labor and really workforce solutions workplace. So without further ado, I would like to invite both Janice and Michaela to turn on their cameras and their audio to begin this conversation.
Thank you, Paul.
Hello, thank you.
Well, Michaela, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you, reading about you, but also just meeting you initially. We've got a tremendous platform today to be able to share your story, which I know, and Paul agrees with, is going to be not just inspiring, but teaching. And I think the best way to do that is to help all of our attendees, and hello, boys and girls clubs from all over. I saw Asbury really well represented in the chat. But Michaela, why don't we just start with what it was like for you growing up? I think that's going to help so many people to understand the doability of what you're doing.
Okay, I'd love to get into how I started. I want to say thank you so much, Ms. Janice, for taking time out of your schedule to interview me and help deliver this amazing panel to the people who are watching. And once again, thank you those who are watching for coming and listening to us talk. I hope you find some value in what we have to say. So my name's Michaela. My story started when I was 4.5 years old. I am born and raised in Austin, Texas. And my story started probably the me and the bee story when I decided that there was a toy that I wanted and my parents wouldn't get it for me. They said, A, that toy's kind of expensive, and B, we're not just gonna buy you this toy. You gotta figure out how you're gonna earn it. And so they gave me the option of doing some more chores around the house or finding a way to earn the money. And so I decided I already have plenty of chores, so I'm gonna find a way to earn the money. And so I remember over the summer trying to figure out how am I gonna do this? I want this toy, and I saw a sign for a business fair. And so it's where kids can come up with an idea and sell their product for a day without the need of a permit. And the first time I saw a business fair, I thought it was like a carnival fair with games and rides and things like that. But I realized that, okay, this could maybe be a way for me to earn some money, maybe enough to let my parents pitch in the rest and get me this toy. And so I started working on what am I gonna sell? I tried selling wildflowers and Play-Doh. I remember trying to, what else did I do? I painted rocks. I tried to sell my toys, but I didn't have enough that I wanted to get rid of, so that didn't really work out either. But what did end up working out was this lemonade idea. And this lemonade idea came from getting stung by 2 bees in 1 week, which was incredibly painful and terrifying for me because I thought I was going to continue getting stung by bees. And then also from a cookbook from my great granny Helen that was old and tattered and actually from the 1940s. And so about the bee stings, I was scared of them at first. My parents encouraged me to do a little bit of research. And doing that research, I ended up learning that A, bees are important pollinators. No clue what that word meant at first, but I learned that like 1/3 of the food that we eat depends on bees for pollination. Like whether that's cheese on cheese pizza, any kind of dairy, fruits, vegetables, nuts, coffee, chocolate, those rely on bees and pollination. And then I learned that the bees were dying at an alarming rate. And so I wanted to, I guess that became my new obsession, my new thing that I wanted to help fix. I didn't know about the bees and I wanted people to know about them as well. And so that is probably where the idea for Me and the Bees came from. I decided I'm going to create a lemonade company and have my lemonade sweetened with honey, which I just learned the bees made, and donate a portion of the proceeds that I make to organizations helping the bees. And so ultimately it was problem solving, but also doing something that was really interesting to me at the same time.
Well, Michaela, you know, there's a lot in what you've just said, and I'm just going to pull out a little bit of it so that we can delve a little deeper into your story. Number one, you had to make, or you you allowed yourself, really, it sounds like, to make decisions about how you were going to achieve that goal you wanted to achieve. And I mean, I'm laughing inside when you're saying I got enough chores, so what else are we going to do? But you know, you were making those decisions. You also are continuing to grow this business inside of going to school for a lot of kids. And tell everybody your age. Let's make sure they're understanding who we're talking with.
Okay, I guess I should give a quick intro. I'm a junior in high school. I'm 16 years old. I live in Austin, Texas. I am a tech lover, a nature lover, enjoy spending time with friends and starting and creating things. And I'm the founder and CEO of Me and the Bees Lemonade. So that's about me.
That's the company we're talking about right now. And it's all about you. And you know why? Because you are so many people's story waiting to happen. And that's why I want to go back to what I was just about to ask you. You made a decision, not just about what to do, but how to do it. You are a student. For a lot of kids today, school's really tough. And even if we fast forward it, since you started the company, thank you very much. Since you started the company, you've also been thrown into COVID. And so let's talk a little bit about decision making and finding that ability to still keep that great smile you've got in the middle of all of this. That's going to help a lot of people before we even talk about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so that's a great question. You raised running my company while being a student and running my company while there's a whole pandemic going on. So I'd love to address both of those. While being a student, I think it's kind of gotten a little bit harder. When I started, I was a kindergartner. I was able to do this on weekends. I had so much free time that probably applied up until middle school and maybe freshman year of high school. Now that I'm a junior and this is a time when I'm supposed to start like thinking about what I want to do next and start applying to colleges, it's gotten harder. And so I think one thing that I've tried to do, including when I was younger and in middle school and now, is I try to combine business with Me and the Bees. So for example, when we do business trips and I'm doing a conference, we try to make it part vacation. When I'm doing a business photo shoot, I try to make it fun and involve my friends and I guess make it part of being a regular team, but also business. When I'm doing schoolwork, I try to find a way to incorporate what I've learned with Me and the Bees into that project and make it a little bit more interesting because I know that what I'm doing in school is going to help me with my business. So in terms of balancing, I think trying to combine, it's honestly all combinable, but trying to combine school and being a teen and having this business has been really, really helpful. For COVID, it's also been tough. And I think some things that I've learned is it's really helpful when you have a team. In February, my whole family caught COVID except for me. So I was working on being a student. I was working on taking care of my family and also trying to figure out what happens with Me and the Bees. And so one thing that was really, really helpful was that we had a team of people who were working with Me and the Bees, who were doing the graphic designing and who were doing the finance. So we were able to take that time to work as a family to take care of ourselves. So that has been really helpful. Something that's also been helpful is, again, using technology and converting meetings that were in person to Zoom, adapting and using I guess we were initially selling mostly to grocery stores, restaurants, and cafes, but since a lot of those closed, okay, let's learn about e-commerce now. We've been wanting to do it for but now let's actually go and do that because—
And Michaela, I think it's going to be really important for us to make sure you define e-commerce for all of our attendees, because some of our audience haven't yet started their businesses. And so this will be brilliant for them to understand that, I mean, many kids with e-commerce, they are going global overnight from day one. So why don't you share your definition of e-commerce before you share the journey to it?
Okay, so also thank you so much for raising this, because a lot of the times I'm speaking to adults, and I think it's really awesome when I can speak to kids and get them interested in this at their age, but e-commerce is doing business online. So anytime where you can shop online, add things to a cart, check out, and get it delivered, that's e-commerce. And so initially, our product was being sold in restaurants and cafes, so things that were more physical. People went in and picked up the bottle, took a picture, and then checked out. But with COVID, a lot of those places closed down. And so we were kind of forced to figure out, how do we sell a product online?
You made that journey and you've made it beautifully. As a matter of fact, that's the reason I'm able to enjoy a nice drink from you. I've held it up twice because I think it's so cool. But now I'm thinking maybe I should have had them bring the bottle in instead of pouring it for me. I just don't drink out of bottles.
That is very pretty.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Michaela, with this idea of e-commerce, there's a lot of responsibility attached to it. Technology in general, you know, we're talking about your business. You are the very face and brand of your business in a lot of ways, even though there's a product behind it. A lot of kids are going to design businesses that they don't sell a product, they sell a service. But regardless of what they're selling, there's something that comes before and especially with the product that's very important for them to give attention to, and that's their personal brand. And technology enables them to build one, but it can also tear one down if they're not thoughtful about how they're building their presence online. A lot of what people from many of the communities in New Jersey think of e-commerce is, I went online to buy it. That's how they refer to it. But, you know, people go online to buy you as well in terms of how you represent yourself on your social posts. Please talk a little bit about the thoughtfulness that your parents and you have given to how you have an online presence for yourself, whether it's your business or not.
That is such a great point. That's such a great point, especially because for me, a huge part of my brand is me. It's not just the product, it's also the story. And it's about me. So I have to make sure that how I'm representing myself on my personal social media pages and Instagram is well representative of my character. And so I think that it's really important to, if you're posting on social media, to think about what goals you have in the future. And you want to make sure that what you're doing now, you're taking care of your future self as well, and your future career and your future dreams. So I think that you pretty much said it. Make sure that what you're posting online is correlating with, if you have an idea that you want to start or a business that you want to start, if you have a brand of yourself that you want to start making, make sure that those two can correlate and kind of go along with each other, I guess.
That's so true. And you know, it's not just what you intentionally put online about yourself, Michaela. It's also how you associate online. If you're thinking about building a business right now, and you're at any Boys and Girls Club anywhere, information that's available about you, whether it's information around bullying tactics from many kids who get involved in that, or sites you visit. Technology can build you up in so many dynamic ways, but the very data it uses to build you up is data that is found and defined from where you go present. So I think if you can share a little bit about some decision-making criteria you think will be important for kids, regardless of whether it's the types of sites they visit or the types of images they post, it can be very helpful to hear from you, because I'm just this old chick who looks young talking.
I mean, I would like to kind of flip it around a little bit. And
good.
When you're going online, you have amazing power at your fingertips. You have Instagram, you have YouTube, you have podcasts and Spotify. I would say try to go and find role models or pages that you think are interesting and look through their content and see what kind of people they follow and see what kind of things that they're posting. Because at the same time, you can get some ideas of, okay, here's maybe what I want to post on my page, but also you are learning at the same time, okay, how do I actually turn my idea into a reality? Or how do I get use social media in order to help sell my product? Or how can I be authentic in my brand? So I would say use people who you are inspired by, or use businesses that you like or products that you like, and go look at their social media, their podcasts, and whatever online resources that they post, and then try to model that with your own idea or business.
That's so excellent. And whether you're interested in starting a business right now or not, if you have any activity online, what we're basically saying, aren't we, Michaela, is be very thoughtful that you're going to places that elevate your interest, and you're also making what you're interested in, your understanding of it. You're also going to places that you don't mind being seen in that company. When I visit your page, and I'm encouraging everyone to do that, I know Paul is going to tell them how to do that after we concluded our conversation. I do see that you're investing part of your profits into saving the bees, and you've established the Healthy Hive Foundation. I think it's really important, whether people are interested in the bees or not, to understand the premise of why you've given this type of engagement to and from your business. Let's talk a little bit about doing well and doing good at the same time.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so this is where one of my favorite words comes in. It's called social entrepreneur. And I think since a lot of our viewers are Gen Z, we're middle schoolers, we're high schoolers, we are interested in what a business does in the world too. So I've learned recently that we look at the labels, we look at the companies and what these companies do before buying and supporting a product. And so that's something that we kind of pioneered. We were finding what companies do good and trying to support those companies. And so as far as what me and the Bees did, when I was starting with my stand, I thought I had to choose between making money and having a successful stand and actually saving the bees. And so after probably my very first stand, I learned that you could be both. I learned that there's a thing called a social entrepreneur, which is someone who starts a company, an entrepreneur, but uses that company to do good in the world. And so my first taste of social entrepreneurship was saving the bees. It was starting beehives and donating a portion of what I made to organizations that were saving the bees. But as I grew, I realized that there's other ways to be a social entrepreneur. I realized that by either encouraging other kids to become social entrepreneurs or giving resources on starting companies to people my age and people just like me, I'm also making a change and making an impact. So I would say if you are thinking of starting a company or are thinking of starting anything, think of some way that you can make an impact or do good, because people are becoming increasingly more aware of what these companies do in the world. And I think as kids, since we are already the people who are double checking and triple checking to make sure those companies are doing good, we also can represent and do it ourselves. And we can both make money and become a billionaire like you, Miss Janice, and also do good and make an impact at the same time.
Yeah, do well and do good at the same time. And Beyonce already has the beehive. So I think it's really important that we think about creatively how we can nomenclature for you, because so many of these kids are going to want to give follow through Paul Ashley and through Boys and Girls Club on how to support your Healthy Hive Foundation and how to start their own foundations. But, I've got a couple more questions before our time is done. And, I think that it's really important that people understand. You wrote a book called Be Fearless and Dream Like a Kid. The question I have for you from that, Michaela, is that when you talk about social entrepreneurship and you are speaking from a larger platform as an author and as a business person, nobody can hear the word social without tying that into social justice. When we look at you and we see someone who we believe, you didn't give these as indicators of yourself, we believe that you are a young African-American woman looking at the world through as big a lens as you are gifting to it. Why didn't, with a book like Dream Like a Kid and Be Fearless, you feel intimidated by your race, by your gender, by social economic conditions? Why didn't they stop you from stepping forward?
I really like that question. I think the answer is in the title. So the title is Be Fearless, Dream Like a Kid. And that's something that I was able to learn when I started and probably helped me grow. And by dreaming like a kid, I mean, we're kids. We dream of the opportunities instead of just the obstacles. If we want ice cream, we're going to do whatever it takes to get the ice cream. Sneak into the freezer, double ask mom. If mom says no, ask grandpa. Find a way to get, convince someone to pass us some ice cream. We're going to get that ice cream however we want. But say we were an adult, we might think of, okay, I'm going to have to pay for the ice cream. Then I'm going to have to count the calories. Then I'm going to have to find a place to put it. Then I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to get there. So I guess in a way, I think that we dream of we find something that we want, and then we go out and get it. And so when I was a kid, when I started, I had my parents to say, okay, you have this idea of making a lemonade company. How are we going to do that? Instead of, no, you're too young, wait. And so that has been something that I was taught at a young age, but then I realized, okay, my teachers are also telling me this, my friends are telling me this, people online are telling me this as well. And that kind of helped propel me and keep on growing and motivate me. So
Michaela, let's be very clear in the short time we have left. You got stung twice in 1 week, I believe, by a bee. So the very thing that would have brought you pain, you turned it around and you created fortune and good energy and health from it. And I think that is a story that everybody has a point of pain they can relate from. I'd love you to share with them what it was that actually inspired you to turn that pain from the bee. I think you were afraid of bees as well, right? And to turn that into the fuel to you building this business and being able to give back to the world.
I mean, I realized that almost all great companies started from a problem or a need somewhere. So something that you probably are experiencing and that's a hassle right now, or is you really don't like going through, or you're finding is really difficult, or is holding you back. Those are the things that have the biggest opportunity of helping others, and also becoming a company. And so I mean, I didn't know this as a 4-year-old, of course. And I was just realizing, okay, I don't know that much about the bees. Maybe other people don't know that much about the bees too. But as of right now, as the world is going through a pandemic, our generation is growing up with technology, and that could be like negative, that could be positively and negatively impacting mental health, as we're also realizing that climate change is an issue, as social justice issues are being raised. These are big problems. And I think it takes a lot of great minds like ours to either create businesses or organizations or just movements to help solve them. So a lot of the biggest and greatest things come out of problems and people finding ways to identify with those problems, but also create something small or big to help solve it.
And having that confidence in themselves, fueled by the information gathering they do. Paul referred to my business, the Act One Group, as, a global workforce solutions organization. And we are that. Many of the people who are on this call with us today are likely going to go into one of our offices to look for work, and to have us help them grow their careers. But before we became that, and all along, we've been consistent about one thing. We're in the information gathering the business. And so I think information gathering business, I think that's pretty much how you've been able to not only build a business, but build a foundation and build a life by being thoughtful, being selfish to the agenda and generous to the world, in how you gather information. We're going to be concluding our conversation in just over 1 minute, in just about 1 minute. Michaela, I want you to use this less than 60 seconds to give this audience your sales pitch. I mean, you were a winner on Shark Tank. Give this audience your sales pitch on how to build a worthwhile life. My mission in life, my definition of success is that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. It is a joy to see you, in my estimation, successful. Share with this audience now how your pitch on how to build a worthwhile life.
I would say use every minute that you have to, like you said, try to build a life that you enjoy. Spend times on things that you enjoy. Try to spend extra minutes that you may have been wasting learning something new or connecting with new people. That's something that I found is really helpful. Go outside of your comfort zone, because that's when the most growth happens and uncomfort happens. But that's also when we probably learn the most as well. Find role models and mentors to help you grow, and try to see if you can follow in their footsteps. I know a lot of people probably see me as a role model, but I have so many people who I view as role models as well. Be okay with being flexible. This is something that I've learned recently, is that you don't have to stick. It's okay to move and change interests and I guess change projects as you see fit. And then keep on setting goals. Set goals that are smart, that you can measure, and that keep you enjoyed. Because once you can complete one goal, then you can set another one, and you'll find yourself, I guess, slowly but continuously moving forward. And then reflect on things that you're proud about. They can be little accomplishments or big ones, and make sure that you celebrate each of those equally as well.
Awesome. And remember, you don't get there by yourself. You get there in the company and from the support of many others. Michaela, this has just been such a dream come true for me. By the way, I really hope that Paul will share with folks how to get engaged in your foundation and the work that you're doing. I know I intend to. And thanks for one of the best drinks I've had. I'm going to sip it now as Paul joins us.
Great. Thank you for that. And I can tell you, Michaela, on behalf of the adults on this call, we were all chatting about what we were doing at your age and feeling very bad about ourselves, because you're so impressive. So there's a couple of, I think we have time for 3 questions. I'm going to ask one from the chat, and then I have a couple that were pre-submitted. But the one that I want to take from the chat is from Milan Merchant. And this person asked, how did you feel starting a company at such a young age? And what were some of the steps you took to actually make your dream a reality?
Awesome question. Okay, so how did I feel about starting a company at a young age? Well, I think at first, and this probably comes from my parents teaching me to be humble, I probably was a little bit nervous to talk about my business at school. I remember being a little bit nervous or embarrassed to talk about my business at school, but realizing, hey, people are actually interested. People want to figure out how they can join and figure out how they can help. So that's something that probably would only be applicable to people who are students or who are in school. But I realized that even though I didn't think that people would be interested, people are actually interested. And then I also realized, this is maybe not such a good part, but some people only think that you have to wait until you get older to do good. So like the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? People, I guess, internalized that and thought, okay, if she's 12 or 14 or now 16, she must not be actually doing it. And so I realized that sometimes I don't get taken seriously, and it's on me to make sure that I show that, hey, I am doing this nonprofit, I am writing this book, I am running this company as well. And then how I turn my idea into reality is it's a loaded question. And I think that's probably where my book comes in, but I can probably start with when I started. When I started, I came up with an idea, but that wasn't all it took to just start the lemonade stand. I had to make a budget and figure out what my ingredients cost, how much do I think I can make, and how much will I have left over to do another stand. I also had to ask people questions. I had no experience in beverage. My parents didn't have experience in beverage. My mom did. My mom didn't. Like, people we knew didn't have experience. So we had to go and reach out to people. We had to go find lemonades or other products on the shelves and see if they could answer our questions. And that was something that we found really helpful. And then we had to grab any opportunity that we took. And I think the best example is when I was 8, it was a pizza shop that said, hey, if you could find a way to bottle your product, I'd like to carry it in our store. Before that, I didn't even think about putting my lemonade that was in plastic cups in bottles. And so by taking that opportunity, which at the time kind of seemed like a bad idea or a lot to handle, we ended up actually making a bottled brand and going from just being in Austin to being in all 50 states. So grabbing opportunities and connections was very helpful as well.
Oh, that's great. The next question that I have is a really good one. Being an entrepreneur and a student, are there any daily practices that help keep you grounded and focused on your path?
Being an entrepreneur and a student, are there any daily practices that help keep me focused on my path? Asking questions is such a big one. I have to do it as a student because I do not understand everything in pre-calculus, in history 11, in physics. So I for sure have to do it as a student, and I for sure have to do it as an entrepreneur and as a young entrepreneur as that. With
and Michaela, people are going to think that you're this genius in class, and maybe that can be true. Two things can be true, but you've shared with me school is pretty tough right now, and you're choosing to continue to do it, aren't you?
Yeah. So I mean, I decided to do a harder school. That was probably a risk that I took, do a harder school and do my business at the same time. And so through that, I have a lot of questions, and sometimes I fall behind in school and I have to make sure that I catch back up. So asking questions and not being afraid to ask for help when you need it. I say, when you need help, ask for it, because there's always help like at your hive. Ask for questions. That's something that I probably do daily, but has been very helpful for me. And then also staying curious, whether it's about people or new ideas, and keeping my ears out for things that I think are going to grow in the future or going to do good, is also a daily practice that I do.
That's awesome. So I have one more question for you, Michaela, and then I have one last question that I would actually like to ask the both of you. The one that I have for you, Michaela, is from Jeremy Jackson Pope of BGC Mercer County. Where do you find inspiration and creativity?
You can answer first, Miss Janice.
Oh, that's your question.
No,
You
that one is
can't
just
ask
for
both
you.
of us
Last
now.
one for you both.
Okay. Where do I?
But I love the courtesy there. Hey, I love the courtesy there.
Okay. So where do I find inspiration and creativity? I like reading. Can't do it as much because I do have a lot of like school reading. But when I can do reading, I think when I find a character that I really like, I'm inspired by them. I also find inspiration in the people who like, I guess, send me letters or who reach out to me and say, hey, I actually decided to start because I saw your company. That's really inspiring because it motivates me to keep on doing it and see how many more people decide to start based on my story. I find creativity in going outside, doing things that I kind of am scared of. So I do rock climbing and caving. And I think by going outside and having to hike to those places or go out of my comfort zone, I find creativity in that. And yes, yeah, that's the answer. That's my answer.
Okay, great. And then the last question, which I'm actually going to have you, Michaela, answer first, and then we'll kind of wrap up with Janice, is what do you want to be remembered for?
That's a good question. I think I want to be remembered for being a member of my generation to either start, be a part of, or lead a movement, whether it's with the environment, whether it's with social change. I want to be remembered for being a part of the movement in my generation. And then I would also like to say I don't do this for being remembered. I guess I do it for the now. I want to see people start now. But in the future, I would like people to hopefully also be inspired by my story and also see representation of me and do that and I guess follow that in their own life as well.
That's awesome. And Janice, this the same question. How do you want to be remembered as an entrepreneur who built a very, very successful business?
Paul, thank you so much. And as I answer that, let me also thank Bristol Myers Squibb, Accenture, and Boys and Girls Club. What we're doing today is something that someone is going to long remember because they learned something, they were inspired by someone, or they gained a network or a relationship with somebody. And that leads to how I want to be remembered. You know, in August of this last year, my husband of 40 years transitioned from Alzheimer's. There are two things that informed me about how you want to be remembered from that. Number one, everything about my life with him was something that I treasured. I'm not sitting here to suggest that he and I never had an argument in life. Some of the most fun we had was through arguments. He's right over my shoulder, the angel over my shoulder in this picture as I talk. As I've gone through the healing process with our two kids, I've had memories. And the things I remember him for are not the things people remember about him. They're those personal points that he made in different people's lives. And the showers and showers of communications we got were from people we knew who had public testimonials about their relationship with him, but their private ones, their very private ones, were the ones that had meant the most to them or done the most for them in life. I think the question for me is not what I want to be remembered for, but through. I want to be remembered through the people who gained opportunities at educations from the schools that I support through scholarship. I want to be remembered through the people who continue to work in your organization and many other companies who gained career opportunities through my work. I want to be remembered through the good work I do. And I want kids here to remember something as Michaela and I exit the stage. The answer to your question is I want to be remembered through the good work I do. It does not, I am a faith-based person. It does not need to bear my name to bear my fruit. And I wish to give that forward. As Michaela and I leave the stage, Paul, I ask every student who's present here today and the adults who accompany them if they wish to look online for a poem called If, I-F, by Rudyard Kipling. We learned it in school. And they're going to need to take the gender specificness of it off because it is written in a male sense. But the lesson of it is one I think all of us can share. And when I think of that poem, I think of you and how you live your life, Paul. So I want to be remembered through the things I do. And I pray that one of them that will last is the work that you and I do together, because I am consistently inspired by you. I am challenged by you. And I am honored to have shared the stage with Michaela Ulmer and you. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And what a great suggestion. Many of us, especially on this one, many of the kids go to college. And if you join fraternities and sororities, it's a poem that you have to learn. So many of us I know are smiling about that. But thank you, Michaela. Thank you, Janice. This was very inspirational. I do want to leave that we will be making sure that the club leaders and everybody on this call has both information to reach out to Michaela and find out information about her company, but also, as JBH mentioned, She runs a workforce solution, and at some point, you might want to reach out to her company to look out for what opportunities are out there, and that's with the Act One group. So with that, thank you very, very much. Thank you. So while we transition to the next part, because that was such a great and inspirational part, I get to introduce another one of my friends, Nidra Dixon. Nidra Dixon is the Europe market lead and global supplier inclusion and sustainability lead at Accenture. She's a friend of mine, and she's going to introduce her very esteemed group of panelists and lead that discussion. Thank you, Nidra.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks BMS and the Boys and Girls Club for allowing me this opportunity to share it with you today. Michaela, not many people that I know, and I include myself, that can share a stage with Janice, and you just were amazing. Janice, always great to be in your pleasure. In fact, I always keep a quote. I write it on my chalkboard that Janice, I've taken from you, and it always says to repeat it every day. I have everything I need to be everything I need to be. So thank you both for that. Now, I am so excited because I get to really just dive into three super amazing people. And I just want to just touch on a little, and then I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves. But I just have to do a little teaser that each one of them have been on TV or have their own TV show. Each one of them have their own business. Each one of them have amazing families. So if you just start thinking the Cake Boss, you start thinking The Apprentice, you start thinking winning your own bodybuilding competition, just think of what all these three amazing people that we get to meet today. So I want to introduce what we call Chef Dana Herbertt, Dr. Randall Pinkett, and Shay Gallespie. I would like each one of you, if you don't mind, to just introduce yourselves and tell us a little about how amazing you are. So I would like for you all to come on camera. And Shay, I will start with you.
Hi, Nidra. How are you?
I'm doing well. So good to see you.
Good to see you. Hi, everyone. So my name is Shay Gallespie. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I work for the largest Black-owned company in the United States, Worldwide Technology, which Dave Stewart, if you Google him and just see the inspiration, you'll be inspired to do something with your life. But anyway, so he has inspired me to start my own business. So I started 4 years ago, a company called Color Coded Kids. I since then branched off to Color Coded Kids Foundation, and we basically teach kids how to develop apps, and we expose them at a very early age. So all those games and YouTube and all those things you love, we're teaching you how to create those in our classes. And then, if that's not enough, I started another company this past year because of COVID, just realizing the wealth gap. It's called Color Coded Kids Money, and we're teaching kids about wealth management and understanding credit at an early age so you don't go down that hole of debt before you even build any type of equity in the community. So anyway, in my personal life, I have 2 kids. I'm married, been married for 17 years, and I have 2 boys. One is normal, what they call normal. And then I have a 13-year-old, and he has Down syndrome. And he is the light of my life. I love him. And if you know what Down syndrome is, it's just really it's a cognitive delay. He walks, talks, all those things, but he's just cognitively, there's a delay. And so we have academic structures for him. And then, if that's not enough, I get up at 4:30 every morning and I weight train, so much so that I decided to enter my first bodybuilding contest a month ago, and I won all the accolades there. First place for the old, I'm old, I'm 43, so I won in my age, I won in my height, and then I won the overall, and I became now what you call a pro. So now I get paid to actually work out, which is fun without trying to train anyone. So that's good. Anyway, enough about me. I'm happy to be here, excited to be here. I can't wait to start the discussion.
Thank you, Shay. You are definitely my inspiration. I don't know about getting up and being at the gym at 4:30, but you're definitely my inspiration. So thank you. And Chef Dana, I have to come to you, and I am just amazed at everything that you've been able to accomplish. And I hope one day, as Janice had lemonade, that I would love to be able to have some of your cakes someday. So please tell us about yourself as well.
Hi, and thank you all for hanging out with us today. We appreciate it. My name is Chef Dana Herbertt. I'm the owner of Desserts by Dana. I'm in the Delaware area. I guess you could say I started cooking. I blame it on grandma. I grew up at her counter, and I had one of those grandmothers that as long as you would eat it, she would keep cooking. To the point where I guess you could say she planted the seed in me to fall in love with food. It's where we found everyone, was back at the dinner table, you know, when mom and dad were leading this busy life, going off to work. And my brother and I to school. It was that one place where we knew we could find love every day, and that was at the dinner table. So we would find love, we'd find some discipline, a little scolding here and there. But it all happened over food. And so that's how I got into the chef world. And from there, I guess you could say it just sort of took off. I went to school, went to Delaware for hotel restaurant management, and went on to culinary school. So if any of you guys are interested in being a chef, I definitely say to look into the hospitality programs and the culinary schools. They're totally worth it. And then from there, when I got out, I started my own business. Desserts by Dana. I was working for someone first, let me say that, learn on someone else's dime. And then I started doing my own thing, and it just sort of grew, and somehow television and magazines caught hold of what I was doing. And next thing you know, I was on TV competing on some of those Food Network shows and TLC shows, and ended up winning Cake Boss. And I think to date, I've been on 10 different television shows, and now I'm producing shows. So it's been a great ride. I can only fathom where God's gonna continue to lead me, but I'm just thankful to be on the journey.
Wow. Thank you, Chef Dana. I mean, 10 TV shows. I can't wait to get into more details about all of that. I'm from Arkansas, and so many things happened around food, so I totally can relate. Dr. Randall Pinkett, it is my honor to be here with you. I am inspired every time I have the honor to hear you speak. And I saw Michaela listen to her write her book. You've written several books. I hope we'll get a chance to learn more about those today, but please tell us, all of our audience, about you as well.
Well, thank you, Nidra, and shout to Shay and Dana. It's a pleasure to be on the panel alongside such greatness. And I got to give a shout to all the boys and girls clubs throughout New Jersey, because I was raised in New Jersey. I'm in New Jersey. I am of New Jersey, and I love New Jersey. So shout to all the Jersey boys and girls clubs. Grew up, went to Heightstown High School, not too far from Trenton. And my office is in Newark. So I got North, South, East, and West Jersey covered. And it's funny listening to Michaela's story. It's so resonated with my story. Like, I sold lemonade when I was a kid. I tried to sell my toys when I was a kid, but nobody had any money, so I didn't sell my toys. I was a kid who sold candy in the halls of his high school. Like, I always had a side hustle, but I never imagined myself as an entrepreneur. And when I got to Rutgers in New Jersey, I have a childhood friend, Wayne Abbott, who started his own business while we were still in school. And when I saw Wayne at the age of 20, young brother running his own business. I said, if he can do it, if I was selling lemonade and candy and toys, or trying to sell toys, why can't I do it? And it changed the trajectory of my life. I started my first business when I was 19 years old at Rutgers, along with 3 of my classmates, Jeffrey, Dallas, and Lawrence. And I'm going to jump ahead now. The 4 of us started in college. We've been together for 28 years. We're still together and we still get along. I call us New Edition with no Bobby Brown. That's what I call us. Nobody had to get kicked out the group. But it's been a tremendous run. At Rutgers, I became the first African-American to win the Rhodes Scholarship, studied at Oxford. I have been an entrepreneur my entire life. I've written several books as an author. I serve as a speaker. And I had the blessing of competing on what was then the reality television show, The Apprentice. I was the only person of any color to win on The Apprentice. That was season 4. 1 million people applied, 18 were chosen. There was one winner. That was the brother right here. And now I do commentary on CNN, MSNBC, Fox Business News as a commentator on politics, business, economics, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. I got 3 kids. My youngest is actually tuned in right now, watching in the room next door. So shouts to her, and pleasure to be on the panel. Good to see you, Nidra, Shay, Dana. Let's get after it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Randall Pinkett. I mean, I hope everyone is listening and just getting so inspired as I am. And there's always a theme here. And the theme is that they continue to do different things. And I think that's what we've seen with what we've heard today, is that everyone is seeing something that they want to do. So I'm going to go into some questions, but please, I want this to really be, from the heart. I want everyone that's listening now to understand the challenges, the failures, the wins that you've had. So Shay, I'll start with you, because working at the largest technology company owned by an African American at Worldwide Technology, and starting your own business. What were some of those challenges in starting your own business, but being able to work in corporate America and then become an entrepreneur as well?
So lots of challenges, right? Because for one, there's this little thing called time. We underestimate that word, and it's so valuable. It's more valuable than money. And so when I thought about it, as busy as I am, I own the Central Division at Worldwide, and I'm a part of all the diversity strategy and lead the diversity strategy for the Central Division, which is about 18 states. So imagine the work that you have to do. And these are Fortune 100s that we're working with for the most part. And then working out. I have a husband. I do have kids. And so the decision couldn't be my own. I had to really rely on my family. Like, is this something that I can do with your support? And so, and it was a need, so I started Color Coded, because if you guys are, I know I heard New Jersey, and Nidra, you're global, so who knows where you live now. But St. Louis, if you know anything about St. Louis, it's a very segregated city. So it's much like Detroit, in where everybody lives, pretty much all the races live together. So where I live in St. Louis is a predominantly Black area, nice area, but it's predominantly Black. And we had trouble finding STEM programs for my son. My oldest son, poor thing, didn't get the athletic gene. My husband and I are track athletes. Didn't get it. He's more of a cerebral person. I love it. He plays the piano. He likes STEM. So didn't want to do any sports, but he loved computers. So trying to find him a program in North County, which is, like I said, a predominantly Black area. We couldn't find anything. West County of St. Louis is predominantly the rich area, where you'll see the upper middle class white families live there. That's where all the STEM programs were. And so I would drive literally an hour to a class and the class was only an hour. So then I'm driving an hour back. So I'm spending 2 hours in the car for an hour-long robotics class for my son. And one of those trips, I said, this is insane. There's no way I'm going to keep doing this, right? And so just put a Facebook post. Social media can be used for good. Let me tell you guys that. So I put a post on Facebook to my friends. Most of them, a lot of them live in North County. And I said, if I was to put together a class with an instructor, would you be interested in joining? I got an overwhelming response, about 38 people. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I'll find a developer, found a software developer, got with one of my mentors and got some logistics worked out. And we started the classes in my basement. We had 16 kids signed up, didn't even know, they just believed in me, I guess. These parents just believed in me. I didn't even have a laptop, a computer at the time to give these kids to even learn how to code. So I ended up working backwards, bought all the laptops after the kids were signed up and registered for the course. Anyway, color coded, grew from my basement. Then a month later, we were in Microsoft stores across the country. So the one thing I will say is you just have to do it. You know, there's never enough time. We will always make time as an excuse, right? People say, oh, I want to work out with you. I want to work out with you, Nidra. You know, you said 4:30. And then when I say 4:30, oh, I don't have time. I mean, 4:30, what do you mean? You're not missing anything at 4:30. You're not missing a dinner function.
This is when I come in because I'm the moderator and she puts that on me. I think, what I've heard, what Shay was able to do was that she did it. There was a challenge in time and everything. So it's okay to start. If you have that idea, to start with it. And Chef Dana, I come to you with that because there's so many people I know that can cook and bake, but you were on TV. I watch you. I look at all that amazing, the ideas, how they did that. What really, made you feel I can go on Cake Boss and I can do this. And not only can I do it, I can win this too.
When I started on this journey, it was really a test against myself. Like, I wanted to know where I was, within the industry. I wanted to know how I compared to some of my peers. Did I have the skills? So really, I was really trying to sharpen my iron, so to speak. And I was like, the best way to figure out if I'm a champion is I'm going to have to go in the ring and I'm going to have to go a few rounds with these guys and kind of see where I fall. I went on shows prior to, Cake Boss, and I didn't win. But in those, what some people might call failures, were my greatest lessons. It really showed me how they were playing the game and how I could play better. Not that I was playing bad, but I could play better. And I always say, you never know what it's like to play at that championship level until you're with a championship team and everybody around you is running that same pace and that same level. And you're like, oh my goodness. So that's kind of how I got into that arena for television. And then from there, it seemed like it just kept going. I did one show. I didn't know what was going to happen next. And I remember I got home from filming a TV show, and that same day I had lost. It was one of the early ones. And there was an email in my inbox. And it was like, hey, do you want to compete on this TV show? And I'm like, well, didn't we just do that today? It looked like the same message. And it was a totally different network. And I remember the person filming, because we filmed live in front of everybody. He said, watch, you might not have won today, but I guarantee somebody's going to come calling. I just didn't know it was going to be that fast.
I'm hearing this theme here. It's like, I remember seeing Shay on TV, like she's talking about her show, about what she's done. I watch, the shows. I'm thinking how it is like to do that. And that is just so brave. And it takes me back to Michaela and to be fearless. And I think you both were being fearless. And Dr. Randall, I come to you because when we see them on TV, we see them being fearless, but you're being the first. What was that like to be the first at Oxford? You're the first person of color. You're the only one in the room. So all eyes are on you. And so what was that thought process to really feel that how you really now have this opportunity? And what made you really realize that you can do this as well and just continue to be that first in everything you're doing?
It's a great question, Nidra. And when I think about the audience we have here of young people from the Boys and Girls Clubs, I want to take your question and I want to flip it on its head and say that the very mindset or the very way of thinking to be a trailblazer, I would argue, is actually the way you think when you're a child. When you're a child, you don't think about what is possible or not possible. You don't have doubts or fears that are born or reside in you. It's only when grown people step in and tell you what you can't do, what you shouldn't do, what you'll never do, and what's not possible. I remember hearing Mae Jemison talk. She was the first Black woman to go into outer space, about how when she was a child, she would tell grown people, I want to go into outer space. That was the 1960s. They told her, what makes you think a little brown girl is going into outer space? But I remember what she said. She said, I never allowed them to silence the voice from my childhood that told me I could be anything, do anything, or accomplish anything. So I say to the young people, don't let the world of naysayers and haters and doubters tell you what you can't do. If you are able to retain that voice, that's the voice that will lead you to your destiny. And that's actually the voice that I was able to retain into my young adulthood that put me at Rutgers to be the first African-American to win the Rhodes Scholar, that put me into the company of 1 million people to be the first person of color to win on The Apprentice, and now the first in my family to be an entrepreneur and to run my own business. BCT Partners, which is chasing after Janet Bryan Halroy. We're number 92 on the BE 100. She's like number 2 on the BE 100. So we ain't there yet, but we're trying to get there. And it's that mindset, young people, that right now tells you you can do anything. My advice to you, don't lose the voice.
I now am starting to think of what was I thinking about when I was a child? Even now, what I got from all of that is don't let someone silence what you want to do. Each one of these panelists have went after something that people did not think they were going to see. So I hope the audience, for you thinking of some questions, I do have some pre-questions, but I also want to say that you see the thread that each one has gone after something that someone else hasn't done. And it's okay. And if you think about it, Chef, I want to ask you this question, because for the audience and for me, maybe the kid in me, I've seen the celebrities, I've read about the celebrities that you were working with. What was it like, for Oprah or Ice Cube? What was that like to be there?
It was really cool. It was humbling. I think sometimes the toughest part for people to grasp, like when we use this word celebrity, it's like we think like they're almost not human, like they're people just like we're people, just doing really big things. And to work with some of them, it was really cool. Like, especially, I think my favorite might be Ice Cube. And he was my favorite because I've watched his career, as a young adult. Probably had, look, I'm going way back, had some of the cassette tapes from back in the day, watched his movies, and he was just like a normal guy sitting on the couch like, hey, you want a burger? And I was just like, wow, okay. And it really put into perspective, like, I could really do anything. Remove the fear, as Dr. Randall Pinkett said. You get rid of the fear, and all you have left are blessings.
Wow, you get rid of the fear, and all you have left are blessings. You know, that is the thing that I think everyone has. It's the fear of starting my own business, because if I fail, what will people say? What's the fear if I'm going to go after that promotion? What if I don't get it? Neither one of you have let fear or what others say stop you. And I think if the audience today, if you take away something, look at what Michaela said in Being Fearless. Look at what Janice has done with her amazing company. And we know Dr. Randall Pinkett and BCT is going to be there. We're going to say we heard it here first when he gets up to number two right there with her. We're going to know that. And I think before we get into the questions, I just have one thing, and if each one of you can answer this one for me, is that right now, you're an inspiration to each one of us. And I have to say, I've had a long day. I was tired. And coming here right now, each one of you have renewed my spirit. And I have to say thank you for that. And each time you have to pull, especially today, in what motivates you. Where's your inspiration comes from? Shay, I would like to say, where does your inspiration come from? If you want to tell our audience today, and what inspires you?
You know what? There's so many things that inspire me, and it changes day to day. My son, his fearless attitude, I know Dana talked about being fearless, him not giving a care, having a care in the world about what anybody thinks or understands about him, and he just goes through life. That inspires me, because I think a lot of time with young kids, I remember when I was a teenager, I was always worried about what would my friends think about this outfit? What would my boyfriend think, or whatever, somebody. It was always about someone else. And what I've learned is you're not going to please everybody. So the most important person to please is yourself. So you take away things from other people. I'm inspired by Dr. Randall Pinkett. I met you once years ago in Philly, I think, or DC or somewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm inspired by Dana. You take pieces of things that people say to you and let that be energy that inspires you to move on. And it doesn't have to come from Oprah or somebody that everybody idolizes. It could be the person down the street that you see help somebody walk across the street. You know what I mean? It just inspires you or moves you to do something. But I did want to say one other thing about inspiration. Or about life. You don't have to live status quo. Disrupt. Look at the world. There's nothing wrong with, because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done. I think that's where a lot of people, they don't have a barbershop and a restaurant mixed together. It's a lounge and a barbershop. Well, you can do that. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to dream big and dream outside the box and disrupt the world. If you look at the world now, it is changing so much, and companies are falling flat because they did not change. I mean, you guys probably don't even know Blockbuster. They're non-existent right now because they didn't disrupt themselves. They didn't see the technology was going to be, and now Netflix is killing the game, right? So don't be afraid to dream big, and because it hasn't been done, don't think like it will never be done, because you can do what you want to do. Just
exactly. I like that. You said dream big, and there's nothing too big to dream. Before we go to questions, Chef Dana, anything that inspires you, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Pinkett.
I'll be honest. What inspires me is looking at the youth and thinking what is possible. I mean, I could sit on the hammock all day long and just be like, wow, if this is what we're doing now, these guys could be so far past us. So really the the way that they inspire me is they fuel me to do my best, because at the end of our time here, we all transition out of here. But my responsibility is I have to take that baton. I got to run as fast as I can with it and get you as far down the road as possible, and then pass it to you and let you go for the win. It's really not about me anymore. It's just getting to that point where I can pass the baton and one of you guys can win.
All right. I hope our audience is hearing that. The baton's you're going to have a think big, pass the baton. And Dr. Pinkett, you telling us what inspires you? What's your inspiration?
So I'll echo Shay and Dana's comments and say I'm certainly inspired by my children. I'm inspired by what I see others doing, like Shay and like Dana. I'm also inspired by, to Dana's point, legacy and what I hope to leave for future generations and for these young people that is intergenerational, that I can pass down wealth, I can pass down wisdom, and that it's easier for them than it was for me, because somebody sacrificed to make it easier for me than it was for them. Also, I'd say what inspires me is competition. I was a track and field athlete in college, so I accept the baton you just gave me, Nidra, and I'm willing to run with it. Like I'm motivated to be the best that I can be. Excellence is not being the best; it's being your best. And I'm constantly challenging myself to be my best, because God's blessed me with incredible gifts. And he did that because I'm supposed to gift those back to the world and to perfect those gifts as a way of being a part of my generational effect of how I inspire and pour into the next generation, like these young people today. So that's what inspires me.
Wow. I'm glad I have a chalkboard, because I'm going to be writing all of this inspiration. I have to say thank you. I think right now we'll take some questions from the Q&A. Paul, would you like to bring some of those?
Yes, I will. We have a couple of good questions. And that one is from our fellow speaker, Michaela. So I wanted to ask this question. And the question is actually for you, Ms. Shay. And it's related to female beauty standards. And she asks, I'm usually the only girl in the weight room or when rock climbing. How do you combat society's image of being muscular isn't beautiful? And how can we change people's opinions on this?
Great question, Michaela. And I got one simple answer for you. Being a chocolate girl, growing up in the 70s and 80s, I've heard every joke under the sun, right? And you just have to keep it moving. You are not going to change anybody's thoughts, opinions about what you do. You love yourself. You're a beautiful young lady, and you're doing great things in the world. And you and God is the only, he's the only one that matters. You keep doing what you're doing. You work out, you weight lift, because guess what? When you're 60 and 70 and you feel good and you can still run circles around people and they looking at you because now they're 40 pounds overweight or 50 pounds overweight, you can't worry about it. The point is, you can't worry about it. You do what makes you happy, because if you stopped, then you're not going to please this other side of the coin. I mean, it's always something. So the focus should be doing what makes you happy. Good question.
And great answer. And then Nidra knows this. There's this Peloton instructor, for those of us who are in a Peloton, Tunde, who cut off her hair. She has a lot of muscles, and she talks about in the clip her journey had everybody in tears. So there's more examples out there.
Yeah.
So the next question is for you, Chef Herbertt. It's from Milan Merchant. And it says, Mr. Herbertt, I remember you mentioning that you didn't win every competition. However, you used those experiences to improve yourself. What were some of the strategies that you used to make yourself more confident so that you felt that you could win the next competition? Another great question.
That's an awesome question. The first thing I had to do was to make myself open. open to be able to look at the circumstances which, quote unquote, made me lose that day. But those same circumstances are the same circumstances that were allowing me to also gain that day. And it let me take a step back and look at everything from, 5,000 feet up, as they say, and look at the way I played the game and say, okay, I see where I could be better. I see where I could be more efficient with my time. I see where I could do this and that and this and that. And then you come back down to earth and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go another round now. I see. And you download just that fast. And I'm telling you, it's like if you can allow yourself and humble yourself to, what do they say, rebuke and criticism and learn, you walk out of there quickly, twice the player you were when you walked in.
That's awesome. Thank you. And then the last question that I'm going to direct to you, Dr. Pinkett, is from Nahira Pathak. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name, but it was, what was the most efficient, effective thing that you've done to make a successful business and life?
Successful business and life. That got me doubling down on business and life. So I'm going to first channel some of the wisdom that Michaela brought to the table. I found to make a successful business, you've got to have a successful team. One of my favorite books is Good to Great by Jim Collins. And Collins talks about the level 4 leader and the level 5 leader. Level 4 leader thinks what and then who. What should we be doing and who should be on my team to help us do it? But the level 5 leader, which is the great leader, the level 4 is good, level 5 is great. The great leader thinks who and then what. Who should be on my team? Who should be on the bus? Who should be in the room? And only then do we figure out what should we be doing. And history has shown over and over again, you can look at worldwide, Dave Stewart had a guy named Jim Cavanaugh in order to grow that into the largest Black-owned business on the planet. And so look at my story. I told you about my partner. So the team, do not go it alone. Or I don't wish that upon anyone. In terms of life, I think that, I don't know the key to success for life. I know the key to failure, trying to please everybody. You can only be the best version of you. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't try to compete with what other people or compare to what other people are accomplishing. God has called you for a particular path. Figure out that path and follow that path. Be the best version of you. Every other role is taken.
That's awesome. So I have time for one more question. And I'm actually going to resurrect a question that I asked to both Michaela and JBH earlier. And I'm going to ask it to everybody. And I'm going to end with you, Nidra. So you got to answer it as well. Because what Nidra didn't say and what I didn't say in her introduction is that she's one of the highest ranking Black women at all of Accenture of how many, 500,000 employees? So you're talking about a powerful panel right here. But the question, and I'm going to start back with you, Dr. Pinkett, and then go my way back around. What do you want to be remembered for? Take 30 seconds each.
30 seconds on what I want to be remembered for. One of my favorite quotes, our greatest responsibility is to be good ancestors. So I hope that I'm remembered for what it was that I passed on to those who will refer to me as their ancestor. And above all, for me, that means intergenerational wealth. We're here talking about entrepreneurship. There are only but a handful of things you can pass on to the next generation. And I guarantee you this, you pass on wealth to the next generation, they will not be mad at you.
Amen. Amen. So same question to you, Chef Herbertt. What do you want to be remembered for?
That is I don't know how I follow up Randall, because I'm like, Uncle Randall, is that you? You know what? What I want to be remembered for, honestly, is love for the people, love for my family, love for the community. If I can accomplish that and I can plant that seed in somebody's heart, I think all else is possible. So that's what I want to be remembered for. Love.
That's awesome. Thanks. I'll go to you next, Shay.
So two things for me, a personal remembrance and professional. So I know you guys know this as parents, all of you that are parents, don't you love when your kids have gone somewhere and they come back and you see that person again and they say, man, you got some good kids. Like that to me, when people say that to me, don't bring them kids back. You know what I mean? Like, because there are kids like that where you're like, they don't say anything, right? But I always get that from teachers to principals to anybody on the street. They say that about my boys. You know, they're 13 and 14, and people always say, man, those are some good kids. I mean, they follow it and say they must act like your husband, but that's beside the point. They still say they're good kids. So what I want to be remembered is when I leave, that I raised good people. You know, I raised good citizens who cared about the world. So that's my personal one. For as far as professionally, that I've done my job of helping that next generation get exposed to tech at an early age. It is so vital for our future. They need the minorities in the US need to be exposed as early as possible to technology and understanding how technology works and how it moves throughout the world. And so I want to be known as that I helped, even if it's one kid now wants to be a software developer and not a basketball player, I've done my job.
Awesome.
Wow.
And Nidra, last but not least, what do you want to be
Oh,
remembered?
that's hard to follow, but I kind of live on a quote that gets me through sometimes because I always believe you have to pay it forward. So one of the quotes I love is about service, and it says that service is the rent that we pay for the space on this earth, is that you must give back and help others. So Paul, thank you very much for having us with the Boys and Girls Club. Shay, Chef Dana, Dr. Pinkett. I don't know how I got the honor of being here on the stage with you three, but I am inspired and I am grateful for each of you. So I hope we do share all of your websites and books and everything for everyone. So please, again, thank you. Thank you, BMS. It is a pleasure to sponsor this with you. Back to you, Paul.
You're very welcome. Thank you, everybody. And once again, thank you to the panelists. And now I'm going to close it out. First of all, thank you, guys. First of all, I want to thank you, students, for attending. Hopefully, you were as inspired by this event as I was. And we actually have something more in appreciation. So don't click off just yet. But before I get to the surprise that we have for each of the students, there is a team of folks that I want to thank. This was a vision of both BMS and Accenture, and there were teams from both companies along with the BGC who worked very hard to make this happen. So I do need to just shout out some names. From Accenture, we have Heather McIntyre, my fellow board member, Nidra Dixon, Basha Webster, Lainey Blodgett. From Team BMS, we have Silka, B, Sundari, Kamasi, Gabriel, Farron. From Boys and Girls Club, we have Dave Anderson and Reggie. From Insight Marketing, we have Keisha, Michelle, and Prasad. And thank you to the panelists, each of the panelists, their teams to help them prepare. It was a great event. So like some of the speakers have mentioned, we will, through the clubs, get the websites, contact information, names of books, names of companies, things like that, just so you know and can remember what you've experienced today. But we also know, and oh, by the way, let me just say, the Boys and Girls Club have programs in entrepreneurship, business, finance, those kinds of things. And that's why they do that. So we wanted to do this to hopefully inspire you to participate in some of the amazing programming that the Boys and Girls Club has to offer. So just make sure you take what you're inspired today, talk to the people at the Boys and Girls Club, and we, especially through the relationships with corporations like BMS and many of the other corporations that the state of New Jersey Boys and Girls Clubs work with, we want to help make your dreams become a reality. That's really a goal of ours. This was recorded, as I mentioned earlier, so we hopefully can get that out to play it back so that it will be available to your friends and family and things like that. But we know taking the time out of your day is an investment in your part, and you invested in yourselves to learn this information. But we understand that it's an investment. So to reward each and every one of you, we have a swag bag that you will be receiving. We're either going to be delivering them to the clubs, or for those who tuned in from a high school and got it individually, we're going to send it to your homes. But hopefully sometime within the next 1 to 2 weeks, you'll get a swag bag, and I'm going to do my best. And these kids are so young, they won't understand my Vanna White impression, but I'm just going to show you guys some of the stuff that you'll be receiving. There's more, but I just want to do the highlights. A backpack from Accenture. You're going to get it's a sterilizer and other PPE. So you put your keys, your cell phone, things like that in the box, and then it sterilizes it. You're going to get the book, Be Fearless by Michaela. So each of you guys are going to get a book. And once again, there's some notebooks, pens, that kind of stuff. But hey, who doesn't want a Bluetooth speaker? So we have a Bluetooth wireless speaker for you. Hopefully you don't play the music too loud in your house. But if you want to play the music loud and you don't want to use the speaker that you have, we got each and every one of you some wireless headsets from Sony that you can both do for school, you can speak into them, you can listen to them. So we really hope you guys enjoy this. So with that, it's 5:30. So I want to thank everyone for coming. You know, be safe the rest of the day. Hopefully everything's well with your families. And until the next time, thank you each again.